Your brain makes stuff up all the time, not because it's broken, but because it's doing its job to keep you alive. It's not nearly as committed to accuracy. I know that might sound dramatic or even a little scary, but stick with me because this is actually really empowering. Welcome to the Foster Your Voice podcast with me, Kristi Foster. After a 30-year career in music and theater, I never imagined I'd be coaching trial attorneys. But once I entered your world, I quickly realized how critical and underutilized voice is in the courtroom. The truth is, you don't win trials with brute strength. You win with your voice. I'll give you tools to unlock your voice so you can communicate not just with purpose, but on purpose. If you want quick action tips to help you stay calm and in control, keep jurors engaged, and inspire your listeners to action, all through the power of your voice, you're in the right place. I'm Kristi Foster, and I'm here to help you foster your voice. Hello, Foster fam. Welcome back. Hope you're doing well. Check in with me when you have a chance. I'd love to hear from you, to hear what you're learning, what you're enjoying about the podcast, or what you'd maybe like for me to cover, and just generally check in and let me know how you are and what's going on in your world. Send me an email at Kristi@fostervoicestudio.com or slide into my DMs, as the cool kids say, on Instagram or Facebook. None of the cool kids are saying that. Let's get connected and catch up. I'd love to hear from you. Before we get into today's discussion, I wanted to share something I've been doing lately. And that is, well, say for instance, I had lunch with a friend recently that I hadn't seen or talked to for a while, an extended season. So we were catching up and they were sharing about a procedure they'd had done not too long ago. We're at that age, we have procedures done. Anyway, while they were sharing about it, they said, I really liked my doctor. At which point, I very rudely derailed the conversation and asked, what did you like? They said, I just liked that they took their time with me. Nothing felt rushed. I felt like I was able to really share without feeling dumb or like it didn't matter. Like they really listened to me. Well, how could you tell? What kinds of things did they do that made you feel listened to? Well, they moved away from their computer thing and turned to face me. They breathed deep and made eye contact, but like not in a creepy way. Right, like with soft eyes. Yeah. And they just let me talk. I guess they had some ums and mhms too, but I don't know, maybe they weren't really listening, but I felt like they were. And they were. Did you also think that they knew their stuff? Oh, for sure. And that's another thing. I felt like they took their time to explain it to me and make sure I understood what they were going to do. Can you hear all those great nonverbals? As an attorney, these are things you can and should be doing. Set your agenda aside. Be present with the jury. Be patient, especially in your teaching section. Allow plenty of time to bring them along and make sure they get the info because they'll be using that info as you get into the story and as they listen to direct and cross. Breathe low, soft, inviting, warm expressions. Let the jury lead the way. Give some good open-ended follow-up questions and then give them some space while you just breathe well and stay present. Sure, yes, you also need to know your stuff, but that's not really in question here, is it? I mean, you know you're stressed about not being prepared enough, but truly, you know your case. You're just uncomfortable with being nervous, which isn't inherently bad. And so you've errantly assigned it to not being prepared. You do know your stuff and can speak with authority, but don't neglect the part where you help the jury feel heard, feel honored for their contributions, valued as a member of the team, vital to the process. Don't just tell them they're important with, the standard lip service. We couldn't have the justice system without you. You're the most important people in the room, yada, yada. Be honest and help them feel that you believe that. And do your own assessments. Ask yourself, what makes someone charming, charismatic? What makes you trust someone in authority? What makes you rebel against them? Learn from those answers and see what you can adopt for yourself, or maybe see what you need to set aside. You know what I hate? Being misunderstood. It's actually one of my biggest fears, if I'm honest, right up there with birds. Yes, I'm afraid of birds. Leave me alone about it already. Being misunderstood is just the worst, though. Trying to communicate something and seeing that it's just not landing the way you intend. A too harsh of tone with your kid or spouse that ended up setting them off. A thinking face that got interpreted as annoyance or irritation and ended up shutting down the conversation and leaving you baffled. It's so frustrating in our personal lives, but in the courtroom, your mismatched communication profile could break your case and lose you a deserving verdict. So, I've created a free guide to get you thinking about the emotional profiles you create. It's a printable guide to help you 10x your communication impact by mastering 6 emotional profiles for clear and authentic connection. I break down the 6 core emotions: happy, sad, love, pride, anger, and fear by giving you face, body, and breathing cues. Plus, I show you exactly which point on a 1 to 10 scale you should be with your pitch, pace, melody, volume, and tone in order to authentically capture the center of that core emotion. The link to get your free guide is in the show notes or by simply going to my website, fostervoicestudio.com. Don't wait to clear up your part of miscommunication and misunderstandings. Get your free download today. Today, we're talking about something that, honestly, I wish I had learned this 40 years ago. And had I learned it as a preteen or maybe even before that, who knows what really would have changed, but some things would have 100% been different. I remember when I first learned about this, the thing we're going to discuss today, and just how utterly revolutionary it was to me. Okay, so enough with the secrecy. What is it, Kristi? Well, it's this. You do not have to believe every thought you have. Ta-da! That's it. You don't have to believe your own thoughts. Your brain might just be lying to you. Your brain makes stuff up all the time, not because it's broken, but because it's doing its job to keep you alive. It's not nearly as committed to accuracy. Now, I know that might sound dramatic or even a little scary, but stick with me because this is actually really empowering. Once you understand how your brain works, you can start choosing thoughts that serve you better. And that's where the CLEAR framework comes in. CLEAR, CLEAR framework. Your brain's number one job is not accuracy. It's survival. And that means your brain is wired to be efficient, not necessarily truthful. And it takes shortcuts. It jumps to conclusions. It repeats patterns. It filters out what it doesn't think is important, even when those things are important. The brain says, hey, I've seen this before. I don't need to reevaluate. I'll just run the old script. Saves energy. Let's move on. Well, that's great if you're being chased by a bear. In a moment like that, you don't want deep analysis. In a crisis, you want fast action. The brain is built for survival, not precision. But in a courtroom, that same shortcut becomes a problem. Your brain pulls up old fears, old assumptions, and stories, treating them like facts. It's reacting to what feels familiar, not what's actually true. That's why we need the clear framework. So we don't let outdated survival instincts run the show when what we really need is clarity. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast, you'll know I'm a big fan of Jon Acuff. He's a New York Times bestselling author of at least 10 books, and I've read a good chunk of them. In his book, Soundtracks, which I'll link in the show notes, Jon talks about 3 ways the brain lies to us. And I think they're super helpful to understand why we must be intentional with our thoughts. So let's start with memory. You'd think it would be the most trustworthy part of your brain. After all, it's your lived experience, right? Well, not so fast. There's a study by William Hurst on people's memories of 9/11. Tragic day, 9/11. He followed them for 10 years and found that over time, people's memories of the day, where they were, who they were with, what they felt, changed dramatically. In fact, on average, the consistency of those memories dropped by 60%. 60%. And these were major, emotional, culturally significant memories, not like what you had for lunch last Tuesday. So if your brain can rewrite that, imagine what it's doing with your daily life. Second, your brain doesn't always know the difference between real trauma and imagined trauma. So even if there's no bear chasing you, and I really hope there's not, just the thought of a hostile witness or a fumbled closing, it reacts like there is a racing heart, tight voice, scattered pacing. That's your body treating imagined fear as real threat. It's not just thinking, it's feeling. And unless you intervene, that fear can hijack your performance. Now, the third reason you shouldn't always believe your own thoughts is that the brain likes to believe what it already believes. This is called confirmation bias. Once you believe something about yourself, about your case, about jurors, about opposing counsel, your brain starts scanning the environment for ways to prove itself right. So if you believe jurors never listen when I talk about damages, your brain will ignore all the jurors who appear to be listening and who are giving positive, engaging body language, nodding, making eye contact, and you'll zoom in on the one juror who just happened to yawn. You'll make up a story about it, and your brain will say, "See, told you so." And the worst part, that belief shapes your delivery, which shapes the juror's reaction. So it actually becomes true, not because it was, but because you believed it was. A self-fulfilling prophecy. Here's where the clear framework comes in. It gives you a way to interpret those automatic stories and choose something different. So let me break it down for you. C stands for circumstance. This is a neutral fact, something everyone in the courtroom would agree on, like I'm giving an opening statement today. Neutral. L stands for lens. This is the thoughts that shape your perspective. This is the story your brain tells you about the circumstance. They're not going to believe me. I always mess that part up. This is where I shine. That's your lens, your thoughts. E stands for emotion. That thought produces a feeling in your body. Tightness, calm, panic, power, whatever it is. It's coming from a thought, not from the circumstance. It's a thought about the circumstance. A stands for action. That emotion now drives your behavior. Maybe you speak faster. Maybe you avoid eye contact. You get too animated or go flat. And then R is the result. Your actions create your results. And here's the kicker. Those results often reinforce the original thought, even if the thought wasn't true to begin with. CLEAR. Circumstance, lens, emotion, action, result. The CLEAR framework lets you catch the unhelpful, unintentional thoughts before they spiral and replace them with intentional ones. Now, this isn't about pretending everything is fine or slapping on a toxic positivity sticker. It's not really even about manifesting. It's about getting clear. That's the whole point of the framework, to clear out the clutter and choose a thought that will move you away from autopilot and move you toward who you want to be. So no, you don't have to believe every thought you think. In fact, you probably shouldn't. Your brain's default mode is not truth. It's not even growth. It's safety. And if you want to grow, communicate, and lead at your highest level, you have to choose your thoughts on purpose. That's what the CLEAR framework is here for. So, the next time you catch yourself spinning out, getting stuck, or reacting in ways that don't line up with who you want to be, pause. Run it through the CLEAR framework. And if you want help or want to see it put in practice, I've created a free guide for you. Just go to fostervoicestudio.com/clear. The word clear is in all caps, CLEAR. I give you lots of examples of unintentional versus intentional thoughts and run them through the CLEAR framework. Examples from different phases of trial and examples from those pesky inner thoughts that have created doubt or limiting beliefs. And then I give you a couple of pages of the framework chart so that you can practice writing your own examples. fostervoicestudio.com/clear. Just make sure clear is in all caps. Clear the clutter, choose your thought, change your lens, and keep fostering your voice. I'll see you next week. Thanks for pulling up a seat with me today and for being part of the Foster fam. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, go ahead and leave a review or a comment so I can give you a shout out on a future episode. During the week, you can find me on Instagram at Foster Voice Studio, where I'm dropping little nuggets of vocal technique and leadership wisdom. You can also join my mailing list by visiting fostervoicestudio.com or by clicking the link in the show notes. I'll send a weekly vocal tip every Tuesday directly to your inbox. Until then, keep fostering your voice.